Welcome to the deep dive. We're going to take you into this really fascinating world where, data precision bumps right up against the sheer unpredictability of sports. Today, it's a deep dive into a whole stack of analysis on Major League Soccer predictions. We're looking at how these advanced algorithms can sometimes all agree, and other times, well, they basically end up in a statistical civil war over match outcomes.
Exactly. And our mission here really is to pull out the key bits of info, the stuff that tells you what really influences these predictions. It's kind of like a shortcut, through all the complex data. You should get some surprising facts, maybe a few aha moments about what's hiding behind these sports forecasts.
Yeah, we got two really contrasting MLS matches lined up. One where the models were like totally in sync, which is pretty rare, and another totally split down the middle. We'll be digging into insights from sources using all sorts of models. Poisson, Bootstrap, Random Forest, XGBoost, MLP, Light GBM, even Monte Carlo simulations. Right, let's jump straight into the chaos then. The match where the models just couldn't agree. First stop, Gillette Stadium, Foxborough. The marshlands of unpredictability. We're talking 66 degrees Fahrenheit, mostly cloudy, and really humid. That kind of sticky air where the ball just seems to die in midfield, right, slows everything down.
Oh, absolutely. That's classic New England summer soccer for you. It's less about flowing play and more about a grind. That pitch can feel really heavy. Perfect conditions, actually, for one of those unpredictable MLS results.
And yeah, the models were just all over the place for this one. The Poisson model, for instance, that statistical tool for predicting goals and stuff, it showed a razor-thin edge, like 1.31 expected goals for the Revs, 1.46 for Miami. Barely anything in it.
Then we ran the bootstrap simulation, that method that resamples data to check reliability. The spread got wider, yeah, but it still basically screamed coin flip. But what's really interesting is the ensemble models, the random forest, MLP, light GBM, the stacked ones, they were all pointing strongly towards an away win for Miami.
But then there was XGBoost, kind of the rebel in the group, right? A powerful gradient boosting model. It was the only one really holding the line for New England at home. Suggests it was maybe picking up on something different, maybe underlying possession stats for the Revs, or some subtle home advantage the others weren't weighting as much.
And that gets us to the why. Why the big disagreement? Well, on paper, Miami has some serious issues. Drake Callender, their main keeper, out. David Ruiz, hamstring injury. And Yannick Bright, key defensive mid, was hobbled. I mean, those are big hits to the spine of the team, defensively speaking.
Yeah, huge. But even with those key injuries, Miami's ELO rating that system ranking teams on past performance, and it still slightly favored them, which kind of suggests some models, the ones leaning on ELO maybe, they were looking at longer trends more than just who's fit right now. Almost like Miami had been, overperforming expectations for a bit.
Precisely. And here's the really weird part. New England, 0 injuries reported. Like, none. Which just makes the whole betting picture incredibly confusing, doesn't it? It sort of highlights that value misalignment we talked about. The ensemble models seem to be pricing Miami like they were fully fit and firing, despite the pitch, the humidity, those key players missing.
Yeah.
It didn't quite add up.
And then there was that other complicating factor, what we call the discrepancy stat for Miami. Lowest actual goals scored compared to their expected goals in the whole Eastern Conference. So they were getting into good spots, creating chances, but just not finishing them, which statistically kind of screams due for aggression, right? Like eventually the goals have to start matching the chances.
That's where the Monte Carlo simulations really helped. We ran it 10,000 times, and the most common score, 0-1 to Miami, popped up over 13% of the time. But 1-1 and 1-2 were right up there too. It strongly suggested, a both teams to score kind of game, maybe some late drama.
Okay, so if you were thinking about betting based on all this conflicting data, well, a draw no bet on Inter Miami seems like a pretty sensible hedge. Protects you if it ends level, covers that Foxborough weirdness factor.
Yeah, definitely. Or maybe pairing both teams to score, yes, with over 2.5 goals. That fits the whole chaos vibe, maybe a high-scoring back and forth. This game just felt like it could have a late twist.
And for correct scores. Maybe small stakes on 0-1 or 1-2 Miami. Plus, there was that angle for maybe a live under bet if the first half hour turned into a real midfield bog down because of the conditions.
Yeah. Look, this was easily one of the most split predictions we've seen in weeks. It's the kind of match where sharp bettors hedge their risks, definitely. And casual fans are probably just wondering why players look gassed after 70 minutes. It's that pitch. A perfect storm for MLS unpredictability.
Right. Now let's totally flip the coin. Let's talk about a match where the models were basically singing Kumbaya together. Charlotte FC versus New York City FC venue. Bank of America Stadium, Charlotte, where the air could feel as thick as the pressure NYCFC might face. Conditions. Hotter, 75 degrees, but 87% humidity. And like no breeze at all.
Ugh. Yeah, it's not just a game there, it's an endurance test. Charlotte doesn't just play you, they drag you into that heat and humidity. That humidity isn't just background noise, it's practically a tactical element.
And the data. Crystal clear on this one. The Poisson model gave a really firm nudge towards Charlotte. Like 1.81 expected goals for them, only 1.11 for NYCFC.
And the bootstrap simulation backed that up completely. Charlotte's goal projections had this wide range, suggesting real attacking potential, high ceiling, NYCFC, pretty much capped around 1.07 expected goals, just showed less threat, especially traveling into those conditions.
And here's the kicker. Every single model, Random Forest, XGBoost, MLP, Light GBM, the stacked ensemble, every single one pointed to a Charlotte win. I mean, that kind of agreement, super rare in sports analytics. It was like the data giving a standing ovation.
And it makes total sense when you dig into why. Bank of America Stadium, it's tough not just because it's loud, but that humidity. Visiting teams often just fade hard after the 65th minute. It's more than home advantage. It's almost like a environmental warfare, you could call it. Betting against New York in that specific environment felt like betting against basic biology, really.
Plus, Charlotte's success wasn't just luck or the weather. Their actual goals were right in line with their expected goals. Their form matched their ELO climb. It felt earned. Consistent performance paying off.
The Monte Carlo simulations hammered this home too. Again, 10,000 runs, most common score. 1-0 Charlotte, followed by 1-1, then 2-1 Charlotte. That pattern points to a low-scoring grind, tactical attrition. The models were basically saying, hydrate well and control the midfield.
So for betting angles on a predictable outcome like this, combining Charlotte to win with under 3.5 goals looked like pretty decent value, fit that expected grinded-out pace.
Totally. And a late goal prop, betting on a goal scored, say, minute 75 or later, that made a lot of sense too. When legs get heavy in that humidity, mistakes happen. Opens the door for a late, decisive goal.
Right. And correct scores like 2-1 or 1-0 Charlotte seemed like the sweet spot, the Goldilocks zone, based on those simulations.
Yeah, basically this wasn't shaping up to be a flashy game. It was going to be a grind. The kind where smart bettors could find clear value because Charlotte just systematically wears opponents down in those conditions. NYCFC definitely needed to pack extra water bottles. And electrolytes.
Okay, let's pull back for a second and look at the big picture. We've got these two really different scenarios, right? Charlotte versus NYCFC, total model agreement, a predictive love fest. Then New England versus Inter Miami, just chaos, a model civil war. So what actually causes models to behave so differently? What gives?
That really is the million-dollar question, isn't it? Charlotte was like a symphony, all signals pointed the same way. Strong home form, that weather edge, good XG efficiency, low injuries, solid ELO trend, everything harmonized. Miami, though, that was more like, a jazz solo during an earthquake. The underlying data about their historic strength was saying one thing. The immediate reality, the pitch, the injuries, was playing a completely different tune.
And that difference really shows us something important about these models. Feature sensitivity. Why do they sometimes split so dramatically?
Exactly. So models like Random Forest and Late GBM, they're often really good at picking up on structural team strength and the impact of injuries. They weigh that stuff heavily, but XGBoost, the one that stood alone on the Miami game, maybe it over-indexed a bit on recent expected goal performance. So if Miami was creating lots of chances, high XG, but just not scoring, XGBoost might still see that underlying offensive potential as strong, even if the finishing wasn't there right now. That creates the disagreement.
Which links back perfectly to that Miami discrepancy stat. Lowest actual goals per XG in the East. Loads of chances, few goals.
But that few goals part is key. Statistically, yeah, they were due for regression, meaning eventually their goal tally was likely to catch up to the quality of chances one way or another. That statistical pull is probably why the Monte Carlo simulations still lean their way a bit. Probability was whispering about a course correction. But Charlotte, totally different story. Their success felt earned, consistent. Goals matched XG, form matched ELO, and they played in that humidity trap. Like you said, almost biome engineered to wear teams down.
Yeah, if AI could actually sweat, it would probably short-circuit playing in Charlotte in July.
Probably. And with Miami, the models weren't short-circuiting, but they were definitely juggling conflicting inputs. Historical strength versus immediate, significant weaknesses.
And there's also that nuance of how injuries get processed, right? Miami was missing Calendar, Ruiz, Bright. That's a chunk of their spine gone. Yet ELO still gave them an edge based on past results. suggests some models maybe don't immediately downgrade a team quite as much as the real-world impact warrants.
And conversely, look at New England. Perfect injury sheet, not a single player out. But the models still mostly dislike them against Miami. That could be a real false flag for bettors, right? You see a full squad and think, great bet, even if the underlying form or matchups aren't actually favorable.
So the real takeaway isn't always just who's the better team. It's often about who's less disrupted, who has fewer conflicting signals. Charlotte seemed to be playing chess, very strategic, consistent. Miami felt more like they were playing slots, hoping individual talent could overcome the statistical noise and missing pieces.
Which means you, the bettor, have to navigate that volatility. When models split like they did for Miami, it's not a stop sign. It's more like a flashing yellow light. Proceed with caution, use hedges, understand the risks. Even the smartest AI can't perfectly measure team morale or vibes, though it tries to infer it from the data patterns. Betting really is just risk management in a team jersey. Charlotte was the clear signal this week. Miami was the complex equation.
Well, what a week for contrasts in the data, huh? That rare consensus backing Charlotte, and then the absolute frustrating chaos around Miami. Some really great insights digging into those models.
Absolutely. And always remember, these predictions are about probability. They're not prophecies etched in stone. And things like, a really humid pitch can seriously mess with those probabilities. Trust the models as a guide, sure, but don't treat that betting slip like it's infallible.
Yeah, and seriously, check the weather forecast. That humidity factor this week, it was huge. If you're ignoring soggy lungs and slippery first touches, you're missing a massive piece of the puzzle.
And here's a bit of advice. If you ever catch yourself wanting to bet against a really strong model consensus, just because you want to be contrarian, pause. That's usually ego talking, not edge. You're probably not smarter than all that combined data.
Right. And ego bets. They tend to be expensive bets in the long run.
Okay, let's wrap with some quick, actionable takeaways for you. Games with split models, like that Revs Miami one. Fade overconfidence. Don't go all in on one outcome. Too much variance.
High humidity games. Look for late goal opportunities. Both Charlotte and Miami showed that potential for, 75th minute plus madness as fatigue really kicks in.
For value, Charlotte's money line, just betting on them to win, maybe combined with small correct score props like 1-0 or 2-1. That looks solid. The data, weather, form, all lined up.
And for those chaotic games like Miami's, watching live can give you a real edge. See how they actually start. By minute 20, you'll have a much better feel for whether they brought their shooting boots or maybe their flip-flops.
So yeah, whether it's a messy game or a clear favorite, remember the core idea. The model's guide, the pitch decides. Bet with your brain, use the data, but leave the bias at the door.
And hey, if a model prediction goes sideways and breaks your heart, there's always next week's matches.
Yeah.